I think it's
When your best friend thinks both of us. Yes. Go get your education first.
Okay, so during the last couple of days, you have been talking about different senses, and today we're going to be discussing vision. As all of you know, that is probably the sense that you rely the most. So vision is responsible for you to be able to appreciate this image, look at the different colors, shades of blue in this beach, the texture of this green area here. And if you were here in this particular beach, you will be able to see the motion of the waves. I guess as most of you can appreciate, the eye, which is responsible for your sense of vision, is a very complex structure. As you can see here, you can see different colors, different shapes. Can some of you guys tell me which animals are these? How about this one here?
A gorilla.
A gorilla? Yeah, what about this one here?
Human.
What?
That was human.
Human eye. What about this one here? It's probably a primate. And what about this one here?
Elephant.
An elephant. What about this one here?
Insect.
An insect, a fly probably. So as you can see, eyes come in many different colors and forms. But the most important part is that even though there is all this complex diversity, is that they all have the same function. They allow you to experience the world that surrounds you. And even the way that the animal behaves in terms of what they eat and so on and so forth, there's a very strong link between that visual system and the ecosystem. For example, here I'm showing you this hawk that is approaching its prey. The hawk has an amazing vision that they're flying really high and they can detect the animal, just go down, and I'm pretty sure that this animal will be able to catch it. And another thing is that this animal is a diurnal animal, and by diurnal I mean that it spends most of the time active throughout the day. But you can imagine that a predator like this one here, which is a nocturnal animal, they have to have some discrepancies or differences in terms of their visual system in order for these animals to be able to prey at night. And of course, you can imagine these two are predators, but definitely the prey will have their visual acuity may be different from hawk. And definitely the environment where these animals are located. I describe animals here that they're in land, but you can imagine that aquatic animals, they need to be able to tune that visual system in order to be able to see underwater. And also the position of the eyes in the organism can greatly change the way that they see. So what do you guys think that visual versus monocular vision means? Yeah?
Binocular, meaning that both eyes work together. Monocular, meaning you can kind of control them separately, kind of like a chameleon has.
Yeah, so basically the binocular vision, both eyes are located, as you said, really close to each other. And monocular, they're usually located on one side versus the other side of the head, so they are seeing different images. And I have some animals here. So what do you think this guy is? Is it binocular or monocular? You think it's binocular or monocular? It's actually monocular. What about this one here? The snake? Binocular? Yeah, what about this fish, the silverfish? Which one?
Monocular.
Monocular? Yeah, and what about this cat here?
Binocular.
What about the owl here?
Binocular.
And the horse?
monocular.
Yeah. So basically, as you can see, these animals have, they have different vision in terms of binocular or monocular. Something interesting is that most predators do have their vision is binocular vision. And we're going to be addressing why that is in the next couple of slides. So I just want to touch a little bit more about monocular and binocular vision. And here I'm showing you two birds. One of them has monocular vision and the other one has binocular vision. Here the pigeon, as you can see, this lighter blue color represents if you are, looking at the head of the animal. One eye covers this whole area here, meaning with monocular, the other eye cannot see it. And their binocular vision, meaning that both eyes are seeing at that area, it's more smaller compared to the owl. What are the possible advantages of having binocular vision compared to monocular? Things that you can think of.
Can you repeat the question?
What are the advantages of having binocular vision instead of monocular vision? Think about the position of those eyes.
Or you could think of pros and cons of each.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
What happens if you only have one of your eyes open?
Well, depth perception. Depth perception.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Binocular vision allows you to have depth perception. So if, for example, you're a predator and you have binocular vision and there's a green area where there is some sort of insect that is green color, you will be able to camouflage in that area. But if you have binocular vision, now you add that depth perception that you just mentioned, and the predator will be able to identify it easier. What about, and Willem brought it up, what happens if I lose one eye? Because the eyes are located in the front, you still have a pretty good vision field. Your vision field is not that damaged. Now imagine if you're a fish and you have one eye here and the other one eye here. If the fish loses these eyes, then the animal will have to turn all the way around in order to explore this side here. Now, if I lose an eye, I will be able to explore the environment easier. That's one of the advantages of having binocular versus monocular vision. And as you said, binocular vision allows you to have that depth perception that you don't have in monocular vision. So we have been talking about vision, but now let's talk a little bit more about the structure that allows you to have an image of your surroundings. And this structure is the eye, and you have two eyes and they're located in your head. You have a pupil. That pupil is that black area in your eye, and that's how the light travels into your eye. You have the iris. The iris is that color, that pigmented region in your eye. So there are different colors. There's dark browns, light browns, blue and green. And if you look at the eye, once the light enters, you can see other regions. Like, for example, the retina here is the back. And we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about that structure in the next couple of slides. So this is the structure responsible for, the retina is the structure responsible for your light sensation. And in the retina, you have a group of neurons that are highly specialized, that they're called photoreceptor cells. And these photoreceptor cells, they're called rods and cones based on their shape. And they express proteins that allows them to detect light, because that's how you form an image. And rods, they're responsible for motion and for dim light conditions, versus cones, which are responsible for you to be able to look at these colors and in bright light conditions. As I mentioned, these neurons, they express different proteins that allows them to detect light, and we'll talk about it a little bit in the next couple of slides. But before that, let me tell you about the location of these photoreceptors in your eye. And this may look like a busy slide, so just walk with me. So when light enters your eye, it enters, as I said, through the pupil. It's gonna hit the back of your eye, where the retina is located. And the retina is a multi-layer structure that looks pretty much like a cake. You have the cake area will be where the neurons are located, and that filling is where those neurons are making connection and talking to each other. At the very end, so if the light travels in this direction, that's where those rods and cone cells are located that I told you about. And you can imagine that you have a light signal. And let's say that I'm talking in one language and you're talking in a different language. If we're talking to each other, we're not going to be able to communicate with each other. So we have to make that communication channel, let's call it, in the same way. So now, in order for the brain to process that light information has to be translated into an electrical signal. And that's what these rods and cones are doing. Then they send it to these neurons here that are called interneurons. And what these neurons are there is to set up the tune. It's going to increase noise or decrease noise or whatever needs to be done, it will be done here. And then finally, we'll go to this layer here, they're ganglion cells. And these cells are the only cells that project those axons that you have been listening, that we have been telling you about, to the brain for further processing. And the protein that allows you to detect light, they're called opsins. And opsins, depending on the wavelength that they absorb, they're called rod opsins, red opsins, blue opsins, or green opsins. And basically, what those opsins are doing is that they are responding to a particular wavelength, either blue, green, or red. In the case of rods, you remember what kind of light conditions they respond to?
You said rods?
The rods, yeah.
They're dim light.
Dim light conditions. So they actually are detecting around 498 nanometers, which that would be like greenish. But they're not going to be providing any color information. They're just going to be providing motion and, light conditions. And if we look at that retina, we can see that the retina has an area that is called the fovea, and in that region, you rarely have rods. And in that region, what you actually have is mostly cones, which are responsible for color vision, as you can remember. So now, if you take that, the rods, and for any reason it gets damaged, this is how your image would look like. So you will be able to see the center of that image, but your peripheral vision will be impaired. Now, if you damage that fovea in that area, this is what would happen. You will not be able to basically see the center, so you will miss that the face of that woman. And as we have been describing for the last couple of days, there are definitely amazing animals that allow you to, that their vision system is just impressive. Can you guys recognize some of these animals? What do you guys think this is?
Caribou or something like that. Some are elk.
Caribou.
It's
Is it
a
caribou?
reindeer, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What about this one? This may be a little bit hard to tell. This is actually a goat. What about this one here?
Dragonfly?
Yeah. And what about this one here?
Mudskipper?
A what?
Mudskipper?
It's a fish. They're fish.
So it's a
So,
skipper.
it's a what?
So it's mudskipper.
What is that?
It's a fish, but it's a different fish.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
But like, does the eyes look like it?
Yeah, no, so these are actually, they're called four-eyed fish. And let me tell you what is amazing about these animals. Reindeers, because of the environment that they live, they actually are capable of sensing UV light. So they can see UV light and help them to find food. One thing about the goat, and the reason why it's so amazing, is because our pupil, when it contracts, when it gets smaller, you just get the circle smaller. These animals, when they constrict it, they can do it in such a way that instead of being circular, it gets rectangular. So they can really control how much light goes into their eye. This dragonflies, usually insects, so if you see there are like all these facets in there, they're like, you know, smaller eyes because it's a compound eye. They usually have between 5,000 to 6,000 facets, and the dragonfly actually has 30,000 of them. So they have amazing light and depth perception, and they're really, really good predators. And these fish here, the reason why they're called four-eyed fish is because they have a tissue right here in their eyes that they sort of divide the eye into, so they each have a pupil, and they can basically see above and underwater. So they give them the ability to look for something to eat while watching for predators that may eat them. And there are different ways that we can test your visual acuity. And most of you have gone to the doctor and you have been able to go through this test. And depending on how you do, you may need eyeglasses like I do. But in the lab, we have to use other methods. We cannot ask a mouse, hey, can you please read this and tell me how, so I can assess how you can see. So what we do is we can place the animal in a box, and then we just have stripes rotating around it. And if the animal can see the stripe as it rotates, it will just move the head. And we can make those stripes smaller and smaller and smaller. And once the animal stops moving the head, we just know that they can no longer see. And we can determine their visual acuity that way. This is, just visual acuity, but we can also look at how much color you can see. And basically this is a test for detecting whether or not you are colorblind, meaning you cannot see certain colors that I will tell you about. Can you guys tell me what numbers are here?
25.
This?
29, 45, 56, 6, 8.
Good. So if you were a person that was colorblind, this is what you will be able to see. You will not see a number here, or here, or here. And that is because you are colorblind for red and green accents. This is more common in men than in women. And of course it carries consequences of how you can explore the world around you. And as you were talking about yesterday, you remember when you were talking about the roaches, there are different implants that can be placed, for medical implants that allows you to either explore the world differently, like, a hearing device or prosthetics. So now they have invented this retinal implants. And basically what happens is that this guy has this sunglasses that has a camera. And this camera gathers the information and sends it to an implant that is located in the retina. This information then is sent to the brain by the optic nerve. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be splitting into two groups, and we're going to be testing your visual acuity. So can you pass me one of those? And would you? Lydia, would you mind helping me?